Okay, let's dive in here. We often talk about comedians, the ones chasing that huge sitcom or the massive arena tours.
Right, the big flashy careers.
Exactly. But what about, like, the real working artist? The person who's kind of quietly carved out their own specific niche,
Hmm.
built this really solid, adaptable career, and whose voice, well, whose voice you definitely recognize, even if maybe you can't immediately pin the name down.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because if you've watched, any American cable comedy or modern animation in the last, decade and a half,
Oh, yeah.
you absolutely know this voice. It's gruff, right? Instantly trustworthy, but also maybe a little bit disgruntled.
Yeah, like a philosophical bear who just had a really bad morning with a flat tire.
That's a pretty good way to put it. We are taking a deep dive today into the career of Kyle Kinane.
And our source material, it's this really detailed profile, kind of lays out his whole arc. It shows a career built not on like those sudden viral spikes, but just relentless, high-quality work, consistency.
Mm-hmm. He moves really smoothly from, those sweaty, beer-soaked stand-up club stages
Right.
to becoming this, voiceover powerhouse. It's quite the transition, or maybe addition.
So the mission for you listening today is really to get the full picture, the strategy behind it all.
Yeah, the timeline, the sort of underlying philosophy, and the surprisingly diverse range of roles that make him so adaptable.
We're really looking at maybe a template for what modern comedic longevity actually looks like.
Okay, so basics first, just to set the stage properly.
Good idea. His full name, Kyle Christian Kinane, born December 23rd, 1976.
Okay.
He's originally from Addison, Illinois, near Chicago.
Right, Midwest roots.
And his main things are stand-up comedy and, well, acting, which
Right.
covers a lot of ground, as we'll see. He's kind of that perfect blend of road dog comedian and somehow also the institutional voice of a whole comedy network.
It's really important, I think, to understand the context of his work, his style. He's got this very distinct blue-collar feel, maybe a bit of a punk rock sensibility in his stand-up. But then when you look at his very first, TV footprint, it's kind of a curveball.
It really is. For someone we know now, for that gruff, beard and tattoos kind of vibe and material,
Yeah.
you'd maybe expect his first credit to be some, I don't know, gritty open mic thing captured on shaky video.
Right, something raw.
But nope, the first documented appearance our sources point to is actually a small but memorable role on The Nanny.
A nanny in the 90s, yeah. Playing young Roger Clinton.
Young Roger Clinton.
Yeah,
It's unexpected, to say the least.
that contrast is pretty striking, isn't it? The Kyle Kinane we sort of recognize today, the gruff, tattooed guy, starting out in the super polished, high-gloss world of Fran Drescher.
It really shows you the kind of hustle that's needed early on, right?
Oh, absolutely. Taking whatever gig you can find just to get a foot in the door.
Even if it seems, completely opposite to the persona he'd eventually become known for.
It's almost like a perfect little metaphor for his whole career, really.
How so?
Well, starting in one place, finding his unique sound, that voice,
Yeah.
and then just applying that sound everywhere. Like everywhere. Doesn't matter the medium.
Stand-up voiceover animation. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so that nanny credit, it's a fun piece of trivia, right?
Definitely a fun footnote.
Yeah.
But the real foundation, the thing his unique career was really built on, that started getting laid down properly in 2010.
Right, let's talk about that. Section 1, establishing the stand-up foundation and getting that crucial critical acclaim.
We're talking about his debut album, Death of the Party. And this wasn't just, him recording a set somewhere random. The where is actually pretty important.
It was recorded at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater in Los Angeles, UCB.
Exactly. And for anyone maybe not super deep in the comedy scene history, UCB in the late 2000s, early 2010s, that was the spot.
The absolute hub.
Yeah, the epicenter for what everyone was calling alt comedy back then.
Mm-hmm.
More narrative stuff, often more cynical, definitely less traditional than your average big comedy club fare.
So recording there and releasing the album on a Special Ting Records, which was also a big name in that scene.
It immediately signals something. It said, okay, this guy isn't just another comic. He's a significant, respected voice within that really influential, creator-focused community.
And the industry paid attention pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah. The sources are clear. The album got serious critical acclaim right out of the gate.
It wasn't just his comedian buddies saying nice things. Variety, the industry Bible, right?
Mm-hmm. The standard.
They named him in their 10 comics to watch in 2010 list. That's huge validation.
Absolutely. It basically told everyone, critics, executives, okay, This guy's not just putting in the work. His material is sharp enough, refined enough that you should probably be paying attention. Invest your time here.
And that attention, that acclaim, it let him make probably the most strategic career move he could have made at that point.
Which was?
Plugging into the Comedy Central machine.
The Comedy Central nexus, yes. The 7-year run he had, from 2011 until 2018. As the consistent official voice for all of Comedy Central's on-air announcements, this might be the single most important piece for understanding his career longevity.
It's absolutely massive when you think about it. 7 years.
Yeah.
Anytime you turned on that channel, pretty much, his voice was the one guiding you, introducing shows, promoting the specials, basically setting the whole tone for the network.
He became the sonic identity of cable comedy for a whole generation of viewers. It's hard to overstate that.
It really is. It gave him this baseline of recognition, just associating his very specific, kind of weary, but also really genuine delivery with the entire Comedy Central brand.
Exactly. It was almost like an institutional status just through his voice. And while he was busy becoming the sound of the network...
He was also showing up on screen too, right?
Right. His first Comedy Central Presents half-hour special aired really early in that period, February 25th, 2011. So, leveraging that now familiar voice straight into his own creative work. Smart move.
Super smart. And then you look at how he used that persona, that voice, on their other big shows. He wasn't just like a talking head guest.
No, he was perfect for their more experimental formats.
Like Drunk History. That's the prime example, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone remembers those segments, right? Comedians getting drunk, trying to recount historical events, often hilariously badly. Kinane did this absolutely unforgettable one. He retold the story of the Haymarket Affair.
And why did that work so well for him specifically?
Well, think about his stand-up style. It already has that kind of meandering, storytelling, conversational feel.
Yeah, like you're just listening to him talk in a bar after maybe one too many.
Exactly. So the Drunk History format didn't force him to change his style at all. It amplified his natural, kind of gruff, philosophical storytelling voice to its absolute peak, its most exaggerated, hilarious form.
It really shows how smart he was about playing to his strengths.
And speaking of strengths, he was also really good on At Midnight. Remember that show?
Oh, yeah, the game show. Super competitive, fast-paced.
Right. Tested your quick wit, improv skills, knowing all the internet trends. The fact that he actually won that thing 7 times.
7 times.
Yeah. It shows you that the comedy, the persona, it's backed up by some serious smarts and sharpness. It's not just about the voice.
Okay, so it paints this picture of him being really integrated into that network, right?
Yeah.
Defining their sound, starring in their specials, excelling in their games.
And we also see the early signs of his huge voice acting career starting there, too. He appeared in the animated series Trip Tank back in 2014.
Ah, okay. Kind of foreshadowing what was to come.
Exactly. That whole Comedy Central period really set the stage. But the engine, the core of it all, has always been his stand-up, the road work.
Right. Which brings us to section 2, the evolving stand-up catalog and his thematic exploration. Because he definitely didn't just rest on that Comedy Central voiceover gig.
Not at all. The pace of his output here is really key. He moves beyond that initial half-hour special and starts building this really solid catalog of hour-long specials. It shows constant evolution, high productivity.
And often releasing them in different ways, right? Like controlling the release format himself sometimes.
Yeah, DVD specials, albums. And let's look closer at those titles. Because they're not just random names. They often feel like little anchors for his whole comedic philosophy.
They blend like classic literature references with self-deprecating humor and this kind of blue-collar resignation.
Okay, so 2012, we get Whiskey Icarus, his first stand-up comedy DVD special.
Whiskey Icarus. The title alone is just, it's brilliant. It perfectly sums up his style, doesn't it?
How so? Explain that one.
Well, you got Icarus, right? The mythic guy who flew too close to the sun on wax wings, ambition, flight, disaster. But he replaces the sun, the big mythic thing, with whiskey, which is, much more grounded, immediate, a very common everyday substance and self-destruction for a lot of people.
Ah, okay. So it encapsulates that tension, the ambition of doing a big special, flying high,
Right.
but always tempered by the self-awareness that you might crash and burn, often because of your own habits or bad decisions.
Exactly. That's a pretty deep place to start your comedy from.
Definitely. Then he follows that up 3 years later, 2015, with a title that just perfectly tackles that eternal fight between comedians and their fans who discover them early.
I liked his old stuff better.
Slight chuckle. Yes, it's so self-aware. It's like a preemptive strike against anyone who's going to complain that he's changed or evolved.
It shows he's willing to just engage directly with that whole culture of how we consume comedy, right?
Yeah.
Using the title itself as meta-commentary.
Yeah, commentary on his own growing fame, the expectations people put on you once you get a following. He's basically saying, yeah, I hear you. Now shut up and listen to the new hour. It's kind of perfect.
He kept that momentum going, too. Loose in Chicago came out in 2016.
Which suggests maybe a looser feel, right? More conversational, maybe less tightly structured than a big TV special sometimes has to be. A hometown show vibe.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Then a slightly longer gap before Trampoline in a Ditch in 2020.
Another fantastic title, visually, Trampoline in a Ditch.
What does that conjure up for you?
Yeah. I simultaneously playful, right? Trampoline, but also completely stuck, hopelessly grounded in a ditch.
Yeah, like a perfect visual for that kind of midlife existential thing.
Yeah.
You've got the equipment for joy, but the situation is just ruined. Inescapable.
Exactly. And then most recently, 2023, we got Shocks and Struts.
Which goes right back to that, like, blue-collar, almost gearhead vibe. Car parts.
Right. Suggests the material is going to be about the necessary mechanics of just getting through life. Maintenance. Dealing with the bumps in the road, the sudden impacts.
So if you count his debut album, that's basically a major creative release, an hour or close to it, roughly every 2 to 3 years for over a decade straight.
That is serious professional discipline, especially while juggling everything else.
And that consistency leads us right up to his very latest special, Dirt Nap. It's listed in the discography for 2024, but the release is noted for 2025.
And this one apparently features one of the most wonderfully weird, specific comedic premises of his entire career. It just perfectly shows off that unique, beautifully kind of derailed way his mind works.
Okay, you have to tell us about this. The sources flagged something really unique here.
They mentioned that Dirt Nap, it explores the unusual, very specific relationship between the Fast and Furious movie franchise.
Okay, yeah. The car movies?
And a feral cat.
Pause. The Fast and Furious franchise? And a feral cat.
Nodding.
Wow. Okay. When you hear that, you just know you're listening to a comedian who sees connections between things that, like, absolutely no one else on the planet does.
It's kind of sublime, isn't it? Think about it. You've got the super high-octane, totally over-the-top, deeply earnest, emotional core of Fast and Furious family, loyalty, NOS boosts.
Right. Ludicrous speed.
Contrasted with the completely feral, low-stakes, grimy, just pure survival reality of a random street cat.
Okay, I can almost see it now.
Kinane excels at finding that comedic link between the most massive, absurd pop culture thing and the smallest, dirtiest, most mundane bits of everyday life. The premise itself is basically a joke about scale and about maybe misplaced dedication.
Yeah, it just confirms his genius for blending that high-concept pop culture critique with just gritty, everyday observation. And that perspective, it hasn't just earned him a cult following.
No, it's also gotten him spots in the really traditional stand-up world, too.
He's done all the major late-night shows.
Yeah.
Right, the ones that are still kind of the gatekeepers for mainstream comedy recognition.
Yep. We're talking Last Call with Carson Daly, Live at Gotham, multiple appearances on a Conan, and The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. He's definitely established within that core industry structure.
And clearly respected by his peers, the big headliners. He's open for huge names.
Patton Oswalt, Daniel Tosh. Opening for guys like that confirms your material works for big, diverse crowds. And it shows that other major comics trust you to set the stage for them. That's a big vote of confidence.
Okay, so we've got the creative engine really well established. The stand-up, the specials, the road work, the unique voice.
Right. Now we shift gears a bit to the part that really ensures the financial stability, the true career longevity.
Section 3. The ubiquitous actor and voice artist.
This is where we see him strategically translating that distinctive voice, that persona, into consistent work, cold, hard currency, basically.
Yeah, because once you have a voice like Kinane's unique, instantly recognizable, and honestly really marketable.
It sounds like authenticity, right? But maybe slightly tired of your nonsense.
Exactly. Hollywood wants to put that voice to work over and over again.
And his voice work in animation in particular has become just a massive part of his career stability. The sheer volume is kind of staggering.
Let's try and grasp the scale of it, not just listing shows, but the commitment involved.
Okay, well, the biggest commitment, numbers-wise, seems to be the adult animated series Paradise PD.
Right.
He voiced the character Bullet, who was a police dog,
A police dog, okay.
across 40 episodes between
Wow.
2018 and 2022.
40 episodes.
Yeah.
That's 4 years of incredibly consistent recurring work on one show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is what pays the bills. That's what gives you the security, the freedom to then go off and tour and write the very specific, sometimes maybe less commercial material for your next stand-up special.
The voice work literally feeds the creative engine.
Totally. And he's a huge presence in the Adult Swim universe, too. Which makes perfect sense, right? It's the ideal ecosystem for his kind of cynical, often absurd persona.
He was in Aqua Teen Hunger Force, the original cult classic.
Yep, played Dr. Balthazar and another doctor character across a couple of episodes. And then, years later, he came back for the movie Aqua Teen Forever, Plantasm in 2022, voiced a different but sort of similar vibe character, Elric in IT.
That kind of repetition, coming back to a franchise years later, it shows he's seen as a reliable partner, right? Someone production teams like working with.
Definitely. Versatile, dependable, and you see him popping up, filling these specific character types across the whole animation landscape.
Like Rat Daddy in Bob's Burgers. In the episode Earsea Rider, that name alone, Rat Daddy. It just fits his voice perfectly.
It does. Gruff, but maybe kind of endearing underneath. He gets cast a lot as that type. The gruff but loyal sidekick, the slightly burnt-out authority figure, maybe the surprisingly philosophical animal.
He was Cloud Dancer in Adventure Time for a few episodes.
Yeah, showing his range can even stretch into those really surreal fantasy worlds.
And he did various voices on regular show, too. Doorman, Club Manager number 2, Club Manager number 5.
Chuckles, Club Manager number 5. He's filling out the whole world, the whole comedic ensemble, everywhere you look in animation.
And it's not just the older stuff. He stays relevant in newer shows, too. Big City Greens, he's Dweezil, Haley's on it.
Yeah.
He voices Chuck Power and Daryl.
Mm-hmm. And he even has a feature film voice credit playing Biker Dude in the animated movie Epic from 2013.
So the breadth is just undeniable. He's clearly a go-to guy for voice talent, someone who can deliver across different genres, different networks, different demographics.
And then, moving out of the voice booth, he's actually maintained a pretty solid presence in live action, too. Recurring roles, which can be trickier when you have such a distinct look and sound.
What's the biggest example there?
Probably his recurring role as Rod Knorr in that true TV comedy, Those Who Can.
Oh, right, the show about bad teachers.
Exactly. He was in the original TV movie pilot back in 2013, and then came back for 17 episodes of the actual series, which ran from 2016 to 2019.
17 episodes is a serious commitment to one character in a live-action network show.
It really is. And his guest roles are often just perfect casting, little bursts of Kinane energy in ensemble comedies.
Like Sewer Dwayne on Workaholics. That name alone is gold.
Sewer Dwayne from 2011. It just perfectly matches the gravelly voice, the specific weird scenario you'd expect on that show.
He was Pony on Idiot Sitter, too.
Yep. And Eric, in a couple of episodes of Judd Apatow's Netflix series Love, popped up as Ned Coop in an episode of Teachers. These are often small roles, but instantly memorable because it's him.
His work also covers those kind of hybrid sketch animation shows, too, right?
Yeah, like Trip Tank, which we mentioned earlier. He did various voices across 7 episodes there.
He was also Kyle Walsh in 4 episodes of something called Clinical Trials.
Mm-hmm. And maybe the most extensive one in that vein was Right Now Kapow, really bizarre Cartoon Network series. He voiced the character Ice Cream.
Ice Cream.
Ice Cream for 26 episodes between 2016 and 2017.
Okay, 26 episodes voicing a character named Ice Cream. That says something about the sheer volume, the relentless grind of work he takes on.
It really does. And his filmography, his live-action movie roles, they're also pretty varied. Shows a range of scope.
You get the classic big-budget comedy cameo, right?
Yeah.
Like, he was listed as paparazzi at a medical center in Funny People back in 2009.
Right, the blink and you miss it role. But then he also does genre stuff. Like, he played Jimmy in a direct-to-video horror comedy called Cheerleader Massacre 2.
Okay, wow. Covering all the bases.
And he pretty consistently pops up as a memorable character actor in independent comedies, genre comedies.
He was Kyle the Demon in Hell and Back. Kenny Crandall in Random Tropical Paradise, Garvey in the House, Radit and Izzy gets the fuck across town.
See? He's become that reliable go-to guy for adding a specific flavor of comedy to an ensemble cast, the character actor of the comedy film world.
And we should loop back quickly to that other connection, the one that kind of underpins his whole persona.
What alternative culture, the punk rock thing.
Yeah. His career sometimes crosses over into non-comedy stuff that reflects that background. Our sources specifically mention he appeared in a music video in 2019
Oh, yeah. For who?
for the punk band Off With Their Heads. The song was called Disappear, off a really well-regarded album.
Okay, that makes total sense. It just reinforces the idea that his whole brand, his identity, it extends way beyond just the comedy club stage. He has genuine roots in these other alternative subcultures.
All right, so we got the stand-up as the engine, the voice and acting work providing the fuel and the mileage.
A good analogy.
What's the final piece? Where does the social capital get built in this modern comedy landscape?
Ah, well, that brings us to section 4, the podcast landscape and his personal interests. Because this is where you really see his status as a comedian's comedian shine through.
Right. Because nowadays, a comedian's footprint, it just feels incomplete if they don't have a strong presence in the podcast world.
Totally. And Kinane has a massive digital footprint there, both as a host himself and maybe even more significantly, as a constantly invited, constantly welcomed guest on other people's shows.
So his own stuff first. He hosted No Accounting for Taste. And probably more well-known, he co-hosted the Boogie Monster podcast.
Right, with fellow comedian Dave Street Justice Stone.
Doing your own podcast is strategically important, isn't it? Lets you bypass the usual gatekeepers.
Absolutely. It creates this direct channel where his specific conversational style can just run wild, unfiltered. It builds this really deep, loyal connection with a fan base that really digs his long-form chats, which often get pretty weird or philosophical.
Yeah, that direct line is crucial. Keeps the audience engaged between the big special releases, keeps his own material fresh, maybe?
For sure. Though we should note, the sources say the Boogie Monster went on a semi-permanent hiatus around late 2023.
Which happens, right? That's kind of the natural cycle for these comedian-led projects sometimes. Touring, writing, other demands take over.
Exactly. But the really, truly impressive part, when you look at his podcast footprint, is the sheer volume of guest appearances he's made on all the major shows.
This isn't just a list of podcasts he's been on. It's like a map of his social capital within the comedy world. It shows how much respect he gets from the biggest names in the industry.
Absolutely. I mean, the list reads like required listening for anyone following comedy podcasts over the last, 15 years?
He's been on WTF with Mark Maron, You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes, Office Hours Live with Tim Heidecker, Comedy Bang, The Nerdist Podcast, Doug Loves Movies, even The Art of Wrestling with Colt Cabana, and The Adam Carolla Show.
Just think about what that list represents. Being a regular, welcome guest on shows that are that diverse, that high profile, that foundational. It means he's constantly engaging with the entire comedy ecosystem. He's respected by the veterans like Maron and Carolla, and by the alt comedy groundbreakers like Heidecker and Scott Aukerman on CBD.
It guarantees he has this huge built-in audience that knows him well beyond just the Comedy Central voice or the animated characters.
He's the kind of comedian where, when he shows up as a guest, you know other comedians in the room are genuinely excited to hear what he has to say. That's real influence.
And finally, the sources give us that little peek behind the curtain, right? Context for the stage persona.
Yeah, grounding that rugged, philosophical, blue-collar vibe. He was featured in a web series called Outside Comedy.
And what did he talk about there?
He talked about his genuine love for mountain biking.
Mountain biking, okay.
It seems like a small detail, but it adds this layer of rugged authenticity. It helps ground the material. His persona isn't just something he made up for the stage.
Right. The interest in being outdoors, in doing something physical, working with your hands maybe, getting away from the grind of comedy clubs.
Yeah.
It connects his public image to something real.
It reinforces that idea that he's not just a comic playing a character. He's, kind of a regular dude who just happens to be really funny and have a microphone.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. Let's wrap this up with our final section, the deep dive takeaway.
Right.
If we synthesize this whole career arc we've just walked through, what we see is someone who achieved success, real lasting success, not by chasing that one single brass ring like the sitcom lead role.
Right, not the superstardom path.
But through just overwhelming consistency and really smart adaptation across basically every single medium available to a comedian today.
Exactly. And it doesn't feel accidental at all. It feels like strategic diversification. Let's just recap the sheer scope one more time because it's kind of mind-boggling.
Okay.
He was the institutional voice of Comedy Central for 7 straight years.
Yep.
He's released 7 major stand-up specials, or albums, right up to the wonderfully weird Dirt Nap. He anchored huge volume roles in animation, like playing Bullet in Paradise PD for 40 episodes. The sheer volume and the diversification, that's the real story here.
So the core strategy was essentially brilliantly simple in hindsight.
Which was?
Leverage that incredibly distinctive voice, the one that literally defined an era of cable comedy for millions, and then translate that voice, that persona, into dependable, long-running character and voice work across every platform.
Thingy, film, web series, other people's podcasts.
Yeah. The stand-up tours and the specials, they provide the creative juice, right? The perspective, the persona, the raw material. But it's the voice work, the acting gigs that provide the financial infrastructure, the stability that lets the creative engine keep running.
Yeah. What insight here, the takeaway for you listening, is that Kinane's career is maybe the perfect illustration of the modern model for a successful working comedian.
Okay, explain that model.
Stand-up is the core. It's the engine. It generates the material, the unique perspective, like, the Fast and Furious and Feral Cat premise, which is just pure Kinane.
Right. That comes from the stand-up mind.
But the longevity, the ability to keep doing it for decades, the financial stability that comes from taking that powerful creative asset, his voice, his persona, and transforming it into high-volume, diverse work that actually pays the bills. And crucially, keeps his name out there, keeps him relevant, even when he's not grinding it out on the road constantly.
It's basically the definition of leveraging your intellectual property, except the IP isn't like a specific character he created or a show format.
No, the IP is the sound of his voice, his unique writing style, and his ability to just perfectly inhabit these very specific, often kind of frustrated but deeply relatable characters.
Okay, so that leads us perfectly into our final thoughts, something for you, the listener, to maybe chew on after this.
All right, let's hear it.
We've talked about his history of really strong, evocative album titles, his ability to create these incredibly specific, almost bizarre comedic premises like the Fast and Furious cat thing. So thinking about this whole diverse cross-platform career trajectory, where he's balancing that critical acclaim from his specials with the sheer volume of his voice acting work, what does that tell us about the difference between achieving, say, longevity versus achieving superstardom in modern American comedy?
That's a great question. It really suggests that longevity, that consistent working path. It might not only be the more adaptable route, maybe the more financially stable one in the long run, but maybe, just maybe, it's the path that actually allows for the most consistent, undiluted, unique creative freedom over the course of decades, building a sustainable career rather than chasing that one lottery ticket.